Hello and welcome to this transmitter programming tutorial for the E-flite Commander MPD 1.4. Today I'll be programming this DX6E transmitter, but this programming is applicable for all G2 Spektrum DX radios. Let's start by selecting a new model. Click the scroll wheel and scroll to the right down to System Setup and click. Here we'll get a little warning screen letting us know that by proceeding into the next menu, our RF deck will be shut off, meaning there'll be no signal being sent from our radio. Now go down to Model Select and click, and we'll scroll all the way down to the bottom, Add New Model, and click. Create. And now we can name the model. Scroll down to Model Name and click. And starting with the first character, I'll name this one Commander. Now that we have the model named, I'll push the back button to take us back to the system setup list. And now I'll go down to Aircraft Type and click, and scroll down to where it says Wing Normal. Click on Normal and scroll to the right until we get to one aileron, one flap, and click. One aileron, one flap means that we'll have one channel controlling our ailerons and one channel controlling our flaps. Now we can push the back button twice. Here we're back at the home screen. Click the scroll wheel, go back into the function list, and now let's set up our dual rates and exponential. Scroll down to DR and Expo and click. And we can start with our aileron channel. Let's scroll down and select the switch. The manual calls for either a 2-position switch for high and low rates, or you can use a 3-position switch for high, mid, and low rates. I'll be using the C switch, a 2-position switch, so for this I'll just use high and low. Click to lock it in. The 0 position will be my high rates, so we'll leave that at 100%. We'll flip our C switch down to the 1 position for low rates, and then change those 100s down to 70. Click to lock it in, and then we can verify it's working. Now let's do the same for our elevator and rudder channels. Scroll up to aileron and click. Scroll to the right for elevator, click, and scroll down to select the switch. Again, the 0 position is our high rate, so we'll leave that at 100. Flip to the low rate position and drop those down to 70. And we'll do the same thing for the rudder channel. And now we've got our dual rates set up per the manual. Let's push the back button. Now we'll scroll down to throttle cut and click. And scroll down to where it says inhibit and click. Scroll to the right to select a switch for the throttle cut. The H switch is most commonly used for the throttle cut, and that's the switch I'll be using. We can see that just by selecting the switch, it automatically sets the position to negative 100%. That's exactly what we want. When we flip the throttle cut on, we can see the throttle channel is locked in at negative 100%. This is very important when out at the flying field to help reduce the chance of an accidental throttle up. Now we'll push the back button, and now we'll set up our flaps. Scroll down to Flap System and click, and then scroll to Inhibit to select a switch. The D switch is most commonly used as a flap switch, and that's what I'll be using. Now we can see our flap values per the manual. Position 0, the flap value should be 100%. So we'll click on that 0 and scroll to the right, all the way to 100. And click to lock it in. The elevator mix for position 0 will remain at 0. Now we'll scroll down to the flap value for position 1, and that will stay at 0%, but we need to add an elevator mix of 4%. So click on the 0 and scroll to the right till we get to 4 and click to lock it in. Now for position 2, the flap value should be negative 100%. So click on the 0 and scroll left, all the way to negative 100. And then we need to add a value of 6%. We can see our flap channel responding as it should. However, we need to slow it down. Scroll down to where it says Speed Norm, click, and scroll to the right until we get to 2 seconds, 2.0 seconds. And click to lock it in. Now we can see the flaps move down at a more scale speed. I'll push the back button twice to take me back to the home screen. And there we have it. The DX6E is now programmed and ready to fly the E-flite Commander MPD 1.4. Thank you so much for joining me in this tutorial. Hello and welcome to this programming tutorial for the E-flite Commander MPD 1.4. Today I'll be programming with this NX6 transmitter, but these programming instructions are applicable for all Spektrum NX radios. We'll get started by selecting a brand new model. Click on the scroll wheel and scroll down to System Setup and click. This gives us a warning screen letting us know that by proceeding into the next menu, it'll shut off our RF deck, meaning there'll be no signal being sent out from our radio. Now scroll down to Model Select and click, and scroll down to Add New Model. Create. This gives us a brand new, completely blank model. Let's go ahead and go down to Model Name, and we'll give it a name. We'll start with the first character there. We'll click, and I'll name it Commander. Once you've entered the name, push the back button to lock it in, and push it again to go back to the system setup list. Now let's scroll down to Aircraft Type and click, and scroll down to Wing Normal and click on Normal. Now we'll scroll to the right until it says 1 aileron, 1 flap, and we'll click to lock it in. 1 aileron, 1 flap means we've got one channel controlling our ailerons and another channel controlling our flaps. Push the back button 2 times, takes us back to the main screen. Click the scroll wheel once, take us to the function list. And now let's set up our dual rates and exponential. We'll scroll down to where it says DR and Expo, click. We'll go ahead and start with the aileron channel since that's what's already selected. And we'll scroll down to Switch On and click to select a switch to be our dual rates. The manual suggests a 2-position switch for high and low rates, or you can utilize a 3-position switch for high, mid, and low rates. I'll be using the C switch, which is a 3-position switch, so I'll go ahead and utilize high, mid, and low rates. Select the C switch, click to lock it in. With the C switch in the 0 position, that will be my high rates, so I'll leave that at 100%. I'll flip down to the 1 position for my mid rates, and I'll adjust those 100s down to 70. Now I'll flip the switch down to the 2 position for low rates, and I'll set that to 50%. We can verify that's working. High, mid, and low rates. And now we'll do the same for our elevator and rudder channel. Scroll up to where it says aileron and click. Scroll to the right to elevator. Scroll down to switch on and click. Choose your switch. 0 position, we'll leave at 100%. Flip down to the 1 position. Mid rates, set the 100 to 70s. Click to lock it in. And now we'll flip down to the 2 position for low rates. And we'll drop those down to 50%. You can see that it's working, high, mid, and low. And now we'll do the same thing for the rudder channel. Scroll up to elevator, change it to rudder. And now we can see our dual rates are set and working. Now we can push the back button, takes us back to the function list. And now let's scroll down to throttle cut and click on throttle cut. Scroll down to inhibit and click, and select a switch to be your throttle cut switch. The H switch is most commonly used for the throttle cut, and that's the switch I'll be using. We can see that just by selecting a switch, the position is already set to negative 100%, exactly where we want it. When we flip the throttle cut on, our throttle channel is now locked in at negative 100. This is very important when out at the flying field to help reduce the chance of an accidental throttle up. We push the back button, back to the function list again, and now we'll scroll down to flap system. And click. Now scroll down to where it says inhibit and select a switch to control your flaps. The D switch is most commonly used for flaps, and that's what I'll be using. We can see according to the manual, position 0 should have a flap value of 100%. So we can scroll up to that first 0, click, and scroll to the right to bring it up to 100%. The elevator mix for position 0 should remain at 0. The flap value for position 1 will also remain at 0, but we need to set a 4% elevator mix for position 1. So we'll scroll over to that 0 and click, and scroll to the right until we get to 4% and click to lock it in. Now for position 2, it requires a negative 100%. And a 6% on the elevator mix. We can see our flaps responding as they should, but it's moving too quickly. Scroll down to where it says speed norm, click, and scroll to the right until you get to 2 seconds, 2.0 seconds. This puts a delay on our flaps and helps them come down nice and slowly, just like a scale aircraft. Push the back button twice, and we're back at the home screen. This NX6 is now programmed and ready to go for the E-flite Commander MPD 1.4. Thank you so much for joining me in this transmitter programming tutorial. Hello and welcome to this Spektrum transmitter programming tutorial for the E-flite Commander MPD 1.4. Today I'll be programming with this IX14 transmitter, but this programming is applicable for all Spektrum IX radios. Let's get started by selecting a brand new model. Click the orange marker at the top left-hand side of the screen and click Proceed. Now click the three dots at the top right-hand side of the screen and click Add New Model. Default, and Airplane. Create. Now let's scroll down to the bottom here to find our new model, Acro. Click on it. And now click the name Acro, and we'll delete that and put in our own name. I'm going to go ahead and name this Commander. Great. We can push the back button now to lock it in. And push the back button once again to take us back to the main screen. Now let's set up our dual rate and exponential. Click Model Adjust, and then Dual Rates and Expo. We'll start with the aileron channel since it's already selected. Now we'll select a switch. Click where it says On, and then choose a switch. The manual suggests a 2-position switch for high and low rates, or a 3-position switch for high, mid, and low rates. I'll be using the C switch, so I'll go ahead and utilize the low, mid, and high rates. Select C, and in the 0 position, that'll be our high rates. We'll leave that at 100%. Flip down to the 1 position for our mid rates, and click the hundreds to bring them down to 70%. Then flip the switch down to the 2 position for low rates, click the 100s, and bring them down to 50% for our low rates. We can test to make sure they're all working. High, mid, and low, they are. And now let's do the same for our elevator and rudder channels. Click where it says Aileron, click Elevator, click where it says Switch On, choose your switch. 0 position high rates will remain at 100%. Flip down to the 1 position for mid rates, bring those down to 70. And flip down to the 2 position for low rates and bring those down to 50%. Verify those are working, and they are. And finally, we'll do the same for our rudder channel. Now that our dual rates are set up, push the back button to take us back to the Model Adjust list, and now click on Throttle Cut. Select Inhibit, and then choose a switch to act as your throttle cut switch. The H switch is most commonly used for throttle cut, and that's the switch I'll be using. You can see that just by selecting a switch, it automatically sets the position to -100%, exactly where we want it. When we flip our throttle cut on, it locks our throttle channel in at -100%. This is very important when out at the flying field to help reduce the chance of an accidental throttle up. Now with that set, we'll push the back button and push back once more. Now let's go to Model Setup and Aircraft Type. Proceed. Now click on Wing and click 1 aileron, 1 flap. 1 aileron, 1 flap means we'll have 1 channel controlling our ailerons and 1 channel controlling our flaps. Now push the back button twice. And now back to Model Adjust. Now we have a new menu option called Flap System. Click on Flap System, and now click on Inhibit to set a flap switch. The D switch is most commonly used for the flap switch, and that's the switch I'll be using. According to the manual, when the flap switch is in the 0 position, the flap value should be 100%. So click on the flap value and move it up to 100%. And we'll leave the elevator mix at 0. For position 1, the flap value will remain at 0% with an elevator mix of 4%. So click the 0 for the elevator mix and move it up to 4%. For position 2, the flap value will be negative 100%. Slide that down to negative 100 and then add an elevator mix of 6%. Now we can see our flaps are moving as they should. However, they're going too fast. Down where it says speed, click on the zeros and move those up to 2.0 seconds. This will slow the flaps down a bit and provide a more scale experience. Now we can push the back button twice and we're back on our home screen. This iX14 is now programmed and ready to fly the E-flite Commander MPD 1.4. Thank you so much for joining me in this tutorial.